But we've been dealing with this connection group here in Charlotte. They're all across, we're all up and down this area, in this area here. But we're the leaders for the Charlotte Connection Group, Elliot and myself. And so it's exciting to be able to talk to Elliot. We're so busy sometimes I don't get to talk to him. So you all get to be privileged to a conversation that I get to have with my husband. So we're taking some time to talk to you today about what Connections is and what we do. I need you to understand something though. Connections is an opportunity for you just to do that. It's for you to connect.
Absolutely.
And we say it's connecting with people, you're connecting with God, you're connecting with each other, and you're connecting with your community. And so it's an opportunity for people to come into a space and not feel all the restrictions that you might feel in a worship center or in a church space. Sometimes we can walk into those spaces and just feel like we don't fit or feel like we don't belong. But just like the early church, just like they did in Acts, when they would go from house to house and break bread together and fellowship, Connections is that. In fact, we have freedom, which is in the Word of God. We have fellowship while we relate to one another. And my favorite, we have food. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I wanted Elliot to kind of share as a leader his connection experience. One of the things that I think is real important is what we talk about in Connections. Because we don't just come in and talk about anything. There's specific lessons that we engage. There's specific direction that we go. We want to be able in these environments in Connections to empower you and to have you move forward in the things of God and the purpose and destiny God has placed on your life. You agree, hon?
Absolutely. What we're able to do in Connections is bring a different group of people together. And we bring them into an atmosphere that is a lot more relaxed, our home. And we just talk about various topics. As Gwen mentioned, we do have specific topics that we talk about. Some of the topics deal with spiritual warfare, they deal with Samson, they deal with stories about David, but they talk about also deal with subjects such as leadership, subjects such as empowerment, subjects such as recovery, being strengthened in the Lord. And then we tie them in together with the biblical application, which really brings it home for most people.
Right.
So they're able to tie in perhaps what they've been dealing with in their day, or maybe their week or their month before they got here. And we have a storyline, and then we tie it in biblically. We have some conversation, open and honest discussion in a secret place, a safe place, because what goes on in Connection stays in Connections.
That's right. That's
All right. And then we have discussion, just open, honest, and frank discussion. And the discussions have really been eye-opening. They've been empowering. They've been encouraging. They've been a blessing to everyone that has attended. So it's always nice to have some fellowship, and Gwen made a good point. It's always good to have some food afterwards. That kind of solidifies it. So we share the word, and then we break some bread and have some more fellowship. So it's great. I enjoy it. I look forward to it every Friday night.
Yes, there are connections that happen all across, as I said, the area. We are in Shelby.
Yes.
We are in Gaffney, South Carolina.
Correct.
We are in Concord.
Yes.
We are in Kings Mountain.
Yes.
And of course, we are in Charlotte. Did I leave anybody out?
No, you did not.
And I will stop for a moment and tell you that if you're interested in finding out about how you can get involved with Connections, there is a phone number for the Prophet's Voice that appears at the bottom of the screen. Call that phone number and you can tell us what your location is, and we'll direct you to the appropriate Connections group. So I'll probably say that a couple times throughout our broadcast, but I just want to let you know, if you find that you're interested in being a part of such a marvelous fellowship, then you can do that by calling the number for the Prophet's Voice at the bottom of the screen, and then we'll be able to direct you to the appropriate Connections group.
That's right.
One of the things that has been real powerful, I think, for me with Connections, Elle, and you let me know too, is the prayer piece.
Yes,
because we
yes.
always engage prayer with Connections. You know, it's one thing to be able to pray. It's another thing when you've got a group of people that have a knowledge, in a sense, of what you're going through and who you are, and that they can pray with you.
Yes.
There just seems to be strength in number. Jesus says, if 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm in the midst of them.
Yes.
And we have experienced the power and presence of God in our home. We've experienced it in other Connections group. We've been privileged to engage the Concord Connections group. In fact, if you had watched the show earlier, we did a interview at the home of the elders that engaged the Concord Connections group. And so you were able to, if you were tuned in, you were able to see that. But we've had some powerful prayer opportunities that have happened in Connections. We've even seen deliverance. I get excited about it because it reminds me of how the early church must have been. Imagine them now after the Pentecost. Now they're going from house to house, and the Spirit of the Lord is with them. Hallelujah. And they're engaging the presence of God in homes. And it's almost like what's really interesting for me is that after we have even come out of our prayer moment, nobody wants to leave.
That's right. That's right. It's not unusual. We plan for Connections to last about 90 minutes. But typically what happens is after the 90 minutes, the discussion continues on through the breaking of bread. So it hasn't been unusual to go considerably longer. But the most amazing part is nobody leaves. Nobody leaves. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So, and connection is about that. It's about people connecting with each other on common ground with common concerns, common issues, and in that commonality they find, as Elder has said, they find strength and they find encouragement, and it's just been a tremendous blessing for so many.
And we hear so many praise reports from each of the Connections groups. We do a leaders connection, so I need to let you know that the leaders who are over the Connections group are not coming to you untrained or without knowledge, because there is training that we have to go through. Bishop Borders is very, very much about the business of us being trained in order to engage a small group and engage small group activity. So the leaders of these connection groups come fully prepared to be able to engage all aspects of ministry. And that's what's so incredible about it. Often, sometimes the enemy has a way of making us feel like we're isolated and we're alone, and that nobody understands what we're dealing with, and nobody understands what we're going through. Imagine going through something in the week, and for us, our Connections group meets Fridays at 7 o'clock, every Friday, 7 o'clock at our home. But imagine going through the week feeling like you're all alone, and then on Friday you come in and you sit with a group of people and discover perhaps everybody in the group is either going through what you're going through, been there, or at least in a space where they can offer the kind of encouragement and love that you need. I know I was excited about